In today's Leeds news, Guilavogui move details, Tyler Morton linked with January Leeds move, Solomon fitness admission, and parachute payments could be scrapped under football governance bill. Morning folks, Ger here at The View on Thursday, the 24th of October with your Leeds United news. Hope you're having a good week so far. Daniel Farke's press conference will take place later on today. You'll likely be have the detail of that before you watch this, but we'll get some more insight onto what's happened with RG Ramazani as we get ready for the Bristol City game. We will have the preview tonight with Andrew Stats Dalton and a bit of a review from the weekend's game as well. And we will then tomorrow have the podcast. We'll go out tomorrow kind of reviewing the entire week's news and what's been out there from Leeds. There's a bit of bits and pieces to get stuck into today. The football governance bill was published. There is some potential knock-on impact for Leeds, and that we'll get to that at the back end of the video because it's a chunky one to get into. Lots of legal jargon. We got some information on the Guilavogui deal as well as some January moves being linked already. And we'll start off with the Joshua Guilavogui situation. And yesterday we got the news and the clarification that Leeds United had signed Joshua Guilavogui on a free transfer at the club. We now have some more details on this, and Joshua Guilavogui will sign a deal with the club until the end of the season. There is nothing in that deal right now that suggests any options for an extension on that, but that would obviously depend on how much involvement he has, how he plays during his time here, and you might see a slight extension on that. The 6'2" central defensive midfielder will wear the number 23 shirt previously worn by Luis Sinisterra, and going way back, Robert Snodgrass was a man that wore that shirt famously as well. In his interview with LUTV, Guilavogui has talked about having to wait for opportunities in life, specifically the opportunity to play in England. And when asked why Leeds United, he said, "I've always wanted to play in England and now I have that opportunity." And when he spoke to family and friends and told them that it was Leeds United that were interested in him, they were all blown away, very impressed and very proud that he would get this move. And he himself has talked about how much of a big club Leeds are viewed at in France. He says because of Olivier Dacour and Marcelo Bielsa, fans in France keep an eye on Leeds, and Leeds are viewed as in a very positive light by most teams in France and players there. So when the opportunity came up to play for Leeds, he jumped at it. He said that he's also friends with former Leeds United central defensive midfielder Olivier Dacour and plans to speak to him about joining Leeds. Guilavogui may be a softly spoken, quiet guy, but describes himself very similar to Olivier Dacour, describing himself as aggressive, and he believes that the fact that he has captained every club that he has been at throughout his career, that he can help Leeds by bringing leadership, fight and battle to aid Leeds' push for promotion to the Premier League. Daniel Farke always speaks about the character of players as well and what he's trying to build in the dressing room at Leeds. And Joe Dunn, got a really good piece in the YEP talking about what Guilavogui has done off the field to support communities, which is a measure of the character of the person as well. His parents are from West Africa, from the West African nation of Guinea, and in 2019 he set up an orphanage in the country to help children and established a foundation in his own name to support products of long-term future about 3 years ago. As of 2022, the foundation Joshua Guilavogui has supported 21 children in an orphanage in Guinea. And it's a real signal to the character of a man. It's nice to know there's a strong personality behind the footballer as well. He's got a lot of leadership. He's a lot of experience. I said it yesterday in our breakdown live stream, which is a more tactical view of Leeds games. We talked to himself a lot. He talked about character of individuals and leadership. And people like Charlie Crew could learn an awful lot by spending some time with this player. He's won an awful lot in his career as well. He's been around the top clubs, top leagues in the world. So he might be able to impart some knowledge and help this team. It's a young Leeds squad. We lost Liam Cooper. We've lost Stuart Dallas. We've lost Luke Ayling's experience in the dressing room. Adding someone like Guilavogui, even if he never steps on a pitch, adding that in the dressing room could be hugely important for this young side. But I would imagine once he's up to speed, we'll see him go into that team and one of the two current midfielders drop out. Moving into the January stuff, and Leeds may have temporarily sorted the central defensive midfield problems, but with 70 days to go until the January transfer window opens, midfield options are already being linked. Ryan Kent to Leeds confirmed. No, seriously, it's okay. He's not coming. He's not coming. But Leeds, according to Football League World, are looking at a current Liverpool player, and it's not Ryan Kent. According to Football League World, they say that Leeds United are considering a move for Liverpool central midfielder Tyler Morton. Morton is also part of Liverpool's considerations as they look to move the player out on loan because he's not getting a huge amount of minutes right now. Football League World state that Leeds are one of several clubs that have an interest in the 21-year-old midfielder, and Morton has played in the Championship before, has 79 appearances in the Championship during his loan spells at Hull City and at Blackburn, but only 8 minutes for Liverpool so far this year, coming in the Carabao Cup. A loan for me seems unlikely, but if Leeds were to do some smart business over January, it might give Leeds that final bit of fuel for the push in once we get past Christmas and into the final push for the run in for the season. Leeds are current ownership are slightly adverse to using the January window, as is Daniel Farke, only bringing Connor Roberts in last year on loan, but possibly was really only what Leeds needed then, maybe an addition of a number 9, but we didn't go down that route. But this year, if Leeds were smart, a couple of decent players coming in at the right time could really give Leeds the impetus to push on and make sure they get promoted this year and not leave it to chance towards the back end of the season. One player that has been talking this week about his time at Leeds United is Manor Solomon, and it was great to see Manor Solomon and Dan James back on the bench and in contention for Leeds this week. And Manor Solomon may have got more minutes on the pitch against Watford than he had planned. Solomon came on in the 14th minute after Largi Ramazani had picked up an injury and was taken off then in the 80-odd minute of the game. Solomon has admitted himself, though, that he is far from at his best right now, but that there is much better to come from him. He didn't look his sharp self that we saw when he first came into the team at the start of the season. That was very evident. But speaking with BBC Radio Leeds, Solomon said that he knows that he's far from his best right now and that the injury stopped his momentum. On the topic, he said the following: "Back after a few weeks, unfortunately I picked up an injury. It stopped my momentum. But now I'm back, I'm feeling good, it's behind me. I just want to get more minutes to show the best version of myself. I'm still not at my best or at the top of my game, but I will get there." The self-awareness from the player to understand that and be able to articulate that to the public is really, really good. It means he knows what he has to work on, and he's working on that right now. And that all bodes very, very well. We'll find out from Daniel Farke today the extent of Largi Ramazani's injury. He did an unusual statement, a picture of him sitting on the ground on his Instagram, where he said, I will be back, which suggests it could be slightly worse than we thought it might be, but Leeds could do it a bit of luck on this, and hopefully it's only a twist or roll, but we will find out later on from Daniel Farke. Daniel James, for me, is more likely to start the game against Bristol City on Saturday. Willie Gnonto moving across to the opposite side of the pitch, where he usually tends to be a little bit happier, but we could see that. Whether Brendan Aronson plays looked a bit leggy towards the back end of the game, probably overdue a bit of a rest is Brendan. We don't want to go down the route that we did with him in the Premier League, where we're overplaying the guy as well, so a bit of game management needed coming into the Bristol City game as well. And then moving on to the main story of today, and this was around yesterday's publication of the Football Governance Bill, which had been delayed due to the British general election, but now it has been published with stronger independent regulatory control over this, and its parachute payments being scrapped is one of the main topics that may impact Leeds United. As part of this, parachute payments could end up being scrapped, and an independent regulator will no longer have to consider foreign policy, with the requirements being dropped on the part of a hugely strengthened football governance bill to be introduced to the House of Lords on Thursday. Fans will be consulted on ticket prices and any stadium relocation as part of this bill, as well as enjoying greater representations at their clubs according to the bill. The inclusion of parachute payments within the regulator's remit, meanwhile, greatly boosts the ability of the body to safeguard the entire health of the game, with this singular curve that was part of the previous bill being dropped. The move is being considered a victory for fans, and the EFL themselves are viewing this as a significant victory, with a significant strengthening of the previous bill that had initially been published. But there are some areas of concerns. We know Angus Kinnear is not a fan of the regulator putting it very simple terms when he spoke to the Square Ball, where pick anything that the government have gotten involved in that's gotten better as a result of government involvement. And I would be the same. I believe privatising national systems has made a lot of national systems more expensive and not necessarily better. And it could be the same here. Not all of this will be positive news for fans, and although it may be pushed out as positive news, it should be viewed with a critical eye in some serious areas. But these are the areas that have popped up as coming in for a little bit of contention and may be removed or altered at the moment. The first one is a clause that requires the regulator to consider government policy. This was seen as contradictory to an independent regulator. How can you be independent if you have to consider government policy? And depending on the government, could depend on how seriously they view sport, and that could have a detrimental impact on that as well. So that's being considered too. The parachute payment removal, EFL clubs say that it distorts the competition within the Championship and effectively turns the Championship into a Premier League 2. Now, you can argue a lot of different things that that's a positive, because in recent years, the Championship has become a hotbed for young talent to find its feet before going on to bigger things. You look at players like Gyökeres, even Archie Gray, Jorginho Rutter, Chris Somerville at Leeds. It gives these players a massive platform for big jumps in their career. but also it's become a really strong breeding ground for young coaches to cut their teeth and get in the shop window as well. And the Championship is viewed as one of the top divisions in European football, and that's possibly because it's considered like a Premier League too because of that. So there is give and take on that, and positives and negatives to that change. 3, the wider pyramid feel that they should be getting a larger distribution of funds from the Premier League. So the further down the pyramid we go, the more non-league National League clubs believe that they should be getting more money given to them from the Premier League. And if you look at the removal of League Cup replays and FA Cup replays, that will have a detrimental impact on smaller clubs who would get 50% of the gate receipts from playing a match against bigger clubs in bigger grounds. That being gone means that they're down money again. So they're looking for more distribution of funds. 4, clubs will be required to provide effective engagement with fans on ticket prices. It's not just okay for clubs to say that we're engaging with fans on ticket prices. They have to prove to the regulator that they have been effectively engaging with fans. So that could be a very positive move for fans, with ticket prices in the Premier League and in Championship starting to get out of control a little bit, and regular fans being very much priced out of the game in favour of tourist fans. And again, we spoke to Kieran Maguire on the channel around the football finance at the time, and that comes up very clear that clubs would rather have tourist fans than regular fans because they spend more money on match days. So that will help with that one. And then a statement from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport said the following: the bill, which delivers on the government's manifesto commitments, will establish an independent football regulator and a new set of rules to provide clubs, empower fans and keep clubs at the heart of their communities. However, Premier League clubs have voiced concerns over rigid regulations and the fact that the regulator may be able to intervene to the extent it might have a negative impact on the global footballing appeal and growth of the top flight. Premier League recognises that key elements of the bill can help make the English game stronger, including the principles of strengthening fan engagement, protecting club heritage, preventing breakaway leagues and encouraging responsible ownership, a statement from the Premier League read. However, we remain concerned about the regulatory framework. Specifically, we believe that rigid banking-style regulations and the regulator's unprecedented and untested powers to intervene in the distribution of Premier League revenues could have a negative impact on the league's continued competitiveness, clubs' investment in world-class talent, and above all, the aspiration that drives our global appeal and grow. One of the key things about that statement as well is the protection of club heritage. With the Red Bull integration into Leeds and the minor equity stake that they've got in Leeds, there's a lot of concern around potentially changing the name of the club, the badge, the name of the stadium, and the regulator will now put more stringent guidelines in place to stop that from happening. We've seen before when Hull City tried to change their name to the Hull City Tigers that the league prevented that from happening. Fans weren't in favour of it. It was stopped. That's been there. This adds another layer of strengthening that, and there will be cynics out there that say that it doesn't mean anything, that if clubs want to change it, they'll change it, and over time they'll get where they want it. But trying to put that in place and make sure that doesn't happen, or at least fans are consulted on that kind of stuff, will have a big impact going forward. But not all good news for everybody, and more of this will come out in the wash. I'm sure Stephen Borson and Kieran Maguire will be on TalkSport this week to give more detail on this, and it's a topic that's going to be very interesting. The whole landscape of football right now, between this Laslana Diarra case in Europe, where he's sued the transfer system, essentially the third-party sponsorship of Manchester City, victory over the Premier League, and then the upcoming 115 cases against the Premier League, against Manchester City from a football finance perspective as well. The face of football is very much in the spotlight right now and could be changing significantly over the next couple of years. Let's hope there's enough safeguards in place to keep the game as close to what we love right now. Folks, that'll be it for me today. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. You can check out last night's tactical breakdown if you're into tactics. We do that once a week now, me and Lockie. There will be the normal panel discussion later on tonight as well for the preview as well. So if you want more generic chat about the game, we've got that covered tonight as well, so you can check all that out. I'll be back tomorrow morning after the live stream tonight with stats. I'll be back in the morning for more Leeds news. Get ready for the game on Saturday. I will talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. See ya. Bye.